Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UHSS Defiance, watching the massive alien ship appear on the main screen. The vessel was huge, easily 10 times larger than her flagship. Its dark metal hull gleamed with strange lights and weapon ports lined its sides like the teeth of some space monster. "Captain, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Martinez from the communication station. His voice was steady, but Sarah could see the tension in his shoulders. "Put it through," Sarah said. She straightened her uniform and prepared to meet humanity's first alien contact. The screen flickered, and suddenly an alien face filled the view. The creature had purple skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and what looked like gills along its neck. When it spoke, the translator made its voice sound cold and mechanical. "Primitive species of the 3rd planet," the alien said. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. You will surrender immediately and return to your home world." Sarah raised an eyebrow. Around the bridge, her crew exchanged glances. After months of travel to reach this distant star system, this was not the welcome they had expected. "Admiral Kethvar," Sarah replied politely. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the United Human Space Service. We're explorers, not invaders. We come in peace." The alien's 4 eyes narrowed. "Peace is irrelevant. The Zephyrian Empire has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have conquered over 100 species. You will submit to our authority or face destruction." Behind Admiral Kethvar, Sarah could see other aliens moving around what appeared to be their bridge. Their ship looked advanced, with smooth control panels that glowed with soft light. Everything seemed designed to show power and authority. "We appreciate the introduction," Sarah said calmly. "But we're not here to conquer anyone. We're just exploring and looking for new friends." Admiral Kethvar made a sound that the translator turned into harsh laughter. "Friends? You misunderstand your situation, human. Look around you." The main screen split, showing the space around the human fleet. Sarah's 12 ships looked tiny compared to the 50 alien vessels that had surrounded them. Each alien ship was larger and more heavily armed than anything humanity had ever built. "Your technology is primitive," Admiral Kethvar continued. "Your weapons are crude. Your ships use simple fusion drives that our empire discarded centuries ago. You have no shields, no energy weapons, and no hope of victory." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "You make some good points, Admiral. We are pretty new to this whole space travel thing." "Then you will accept our generous terms," the alien said. "Return to your home system immediately. Your species will become vassals of the Zephyrian Empire. You may keep your moon and 3 orbital stations. All other human colonies and space installations will belong to us." The bridge went quiet. Sarah could feel her crew waiting for her response. Earth had spent 50 years building those colonies. Millions of humans lived and worked throughout the solar system. The thought of abandoning them was unthinkable. "That's quite an offer," Sarah said slowly. "But I'm afraid we'll have to decline." Admiral Kethvar's 4 eyes widened with surprise. "You refuse? Do you not understand the situation? We could destroy your entire fleet with a single command." Sarah smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Around the bridge, her crew began to grin as well. Lieutenant Martinez chuckled softly at his station. "Oh, we understand perfectly," Sarah said. "You want us to run home and give up everything we've worked for. You think we should be scared of your big ships and fancy weapons." "You should be terrified," Admiral Kethvar said. "No species has ever refused our ultimatum and survived." Sarah's smile grew wider. She looked around at her crew, all of whom were now grinning openly. The sound of human laughter began to fill the bridge. "Admiral," Sarah said, "I think you've made a mistake. You see, humans don't really do surrender. It's not in our nature." The alien looked confused. "Explain." "Well," Sarah said, settling back in her command chair, "for thousands of years, humans have been fighting each other. We've had wars with sticks and stones, wars with swords and shields, wars with guns and cannons, and wars with missiles and bombers. We've never been the biggest or the strongest, but we've always found ways to win." Admiral Kethvar was silent, watching her with growing puzzlement. "The thing about humans," Sarah continued, is that we love a good challenge. The harder the fight, the more excited we get. When someone tells us we can't win, we take it as a personal invitation to prove them wrong. The laughter on the bridge was getting louder. Sarah could see other human ships on the side screens, and she knew her crew was sharing this conversation with the entire fleet. "So here's our counteroffer," Sarah said, standing up from her chair. "You have 24 hours to withdraw from the system. After that, we're going to show you exactly why humans don't make good vassals." Admiral Kethvar stared at her in disbelief. "You cannot be serious. Your 12 ships against our 50? Your primitive weapons against our advanced technology? You will be destroyed in minutes." "Maybe," Sarah admitted cheerfully. "But it's going to be fun finding out." The alien's face changed color, shifting from purple to a darker shade. "You are either insane or incredibly stupid." "Probably both," Sarah agreed. "But we're definitely not backing down." She gestured to Lieutenant Martinez, who cut the transmission. The alien's face disappeared from the screen, replaced by the view of the alien fleet. "Captain," said Commander Rodriguez, her second in command. "Do you really think we can take them?" Sarah looked at the massive enemy ships surrounding her small fleet. By every measure, the aliens were right. Human technology was primitive compared to theirs. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered dozens of species and ruled the galaxy for millennia. But as she watched her crew preparing for battle, Sarah felt the familiar thrill that came before every impossible fight. Her people were scared, certainly, but they were also excited. This was what humans did best. "Rodriguez," she said, "signal all ships. Tell them to begin Protocol 7. "Protocol 7? Rodriguez looked surprised. "The theoretical first contact scenario. The one where we assume the aliens are going to be hostile," Sarah confirmed. "It's time to see if all those simulations were worth anything." Around the bridge, her crew began working with renewed energy. The next 24 hours would determine whether humanity took its place as a galactic power or became just another conquered species. But as Sarah watched the enemy fleet, she found herself looking forward to the challenge. After all, humans had been preparing for this fight their entire history. They just hadn't known it yet. 23 hours had passed since Captain Chen's ultimatum. Aboard the Zephyrian flagship Divine Supremacy, Admiral Kethvar watched the human fleet with growing confusion. The humans were not running. They were not begging for mercy. Instead, they appeared to be conducting routine maintenance operations. Ships moved in lazy patterns around their formation, and small shuttles traveled between vessels like they had all the time in the world. "Admiral," said Sub-Commander Velkris from the sensor station, "the human energy signatures are decreasing. It appears they are powering down their weapon systems." Admiral Kethvar nodded with satisfaction. Finally, they see reason. They are preparing to surrender. But something felt wrong. In his centuries of military service, Kethvar had seen many species surrender. There was usually panic, desperate communication between ships, and frantic attempts to negotiate better terms. The humans showed none of these behaviors. "Sir," Velkris continued, "I'm detecting unusual scanner activity from the human vessels. They appear to be conducting detailed sensor sweeps of our fleet." "Sensor sweeps?" Kethvar frowned. "What are they scanning for?" "Unknown, Admiral. Their scanning patterns are unlike anything in our databases." On the human flagship, Captain Chen stood in the ship's laboratory, looking at holographic displays showing detailed schematics of Zephyrian vessels. Around her, a team of engineers and scientists worked frantically to analyze the data they had collected. "Report," Sarah said to Dr. Amanda Foster, the fleet's chief scientist. "Fascinating technology," Dr. Foster said, pointing to the rotating ship models. "Their shields operate on a harmonic frequency system. Very efficient, but they have a critical weakness." What kind of weakness?" Dr. Foster highlighted several points on the alien ship design. "Their shield generators are tuned to block high-energy weapons like plasma cannons and particle beams, but they've forgotten about kinetic weapons. Our railguns should punch right through." Sarah smiled. "What else?" Their armor plating has a crystalline structure that makes it very strong against energy weapons, but brittle against rapid impacts. And look at this. Dr. Foster zoomed in on the ship's engines. Their power distribution system has central nodes. If we can hit these specific points, we can disable entire sections of their ships. Commander Rodriguez joined them in the lab. Captain, all ships report ready for Protocol 7 implementation. The crews are excited. Sarah nodded. Protocol 7 was humanity's theoretical response to hostile first contact. While other species might surrender or flee, humans had spent decades planning how to fight enemies with superior technology. The key was not to fight fair. What's the status on our special modifications? Sarah asked. Complete, Rodriguez replied. Every ship has been fitted with the new targeting computers. We've also deployed the mining charges as you requested. Sarah looked at the clock. 1 hour remained until her deadline. Time to see if human ingenuity could overcome alien superiority. Aboard the Divine Supremacy, Admiral Kethvar was growing impatient. The human energy signatures had remained low for hours, but they still showed no signs of surrender. Admiral, Velcris reported, we're detecting some kind of transmission between the human ships. It's heavily encrypted. Can you decode it? No, sir. The encryption is surprisingly sophisticated for such a primitive species. Kethvar was beginning to feel uneasy. Something about the human behavior was wrong. In his experience, inferior species either fled immediately or fought desperately and died quickly. These humans seemed to be doing neither. Open a channel to the human flagship, he commanded. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen, looking calm and confident. Admiral Kethvar, she said pleasantly. Right on time. 1 hour until our deadline. Captain Chen, Kethvar said, surely you realize the futility of your position. My fleet could destroy you instantly. Probably, Sarah agreed. But you know what? We've been thinking about that. Thinking? Oh yes. We've spent the last 23 hours studying your ships, your tactics, and your technology. Fascinating stuff, really. Kethvar felt a chill run through his body. You have been studying us? Of course, Sarah said cheerfully. That's what humans do when we're about to fight someone new. We learn everything we can about them. On the screen behind Sarah, Kethvar could see human crew members working at stations covered with detailed technical displays. They looked excited, not frightened. Captain, Kethvar said slowly, are you telling me that you have spent this time preparing to fight us instead of preparing to surrender? Exactly, Sarah replied. We're really looking forward to this. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Kethvar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew looked confused and worried. Admiral, Velcris said quietly, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. These humans are not behaving like any species we have encountered. But Kethvar's pride was wounded. Impossible. They are primitive. We will demonstrate the power of the Zephyrian Empire. He turned to his weapons officer. Target the human flagship. Prepare to fire a warning shot. Sir, the weapons officer said, warning shot targeted. Fire. A bright beam of energy lanced out from the Divine Supremacy, aimed to pass just in front of the human flagship. It was meant to demonstrate Zephyrian power without causing damage. The beam struck something invisible and dispersed harmlessly. What happened? Kethvar demanded. Sir, the weapons officer said in shock, the humans have deployed some kind of defensive field. Our energy beam was scattered by a cloud of metallic particles. On the human flagship, Sarah watched the alien energy beam dissipate against the cloud of mining debris her ships had quietly positioned throughout the area. Mining charges were a good idea, she told Rodriguez. Ready all weapons. All ships report weapons hot and targeting solutions locked. Sarah looked at the alien fleet with the same expression a chess master might wear when studying an interesting puzzle. You know, she said to her crew, I think these aliens have forgotten something important. What's that, Captain? Rodriguez asked. That the best defense against superior technology is superior tactics. She pressed the communication button. All ships, this is Defiance. Execute Protocol 7. Show them how humans say hello. 12 human ships suddenly came alive with deadly purpose. Railgun rounds shot out at incredible speed, targeting the precise weak points Dr. Foster had identified. The kinetic rounds punched through Zephyrian shields like they weren't there. 3 alien destroyers were crippled in the first volley. Their crews, trained for energy weapon combat, had no defense against simple chunks of metal moving at tremendous speed. But even as they fought, the humans did something that confused the aliens even more. Human rescue shuttles launched immediately, racing to save the crews of the disabled ships. Admiral Kethvar watched in amazement as human medics pulled wounded Zephyrians from their damaged vessels. What kind of species attacked their enemies and then saved their lives? Admiral Kethvar stood in the medical bay of his flagship, staring at an impossible sight. Human doctors worked alongside Zephyrian medics, treating wounded aliens with the same care they gave to their own people. The humans had insisted on providing medical aid after the brief skirmish, and their advanced surgical techniques were actually saving lives. "Admiral," said Dr. Sarah Kim, a human physician, as she finished treating a Zephyrian engineer, "your crew member will be fine. The neural damage was minor." Kethvar looked at the small human woman in confusion. "You are healing our wounded. Why?" Dr. Kim looked at him with surprise. "Why wouldn't we? They're hurt, and we can help. That's what doctors do." The concept was so alien to Kethvar that he struggled to understand it. In 10,000 years of galactic conquest, the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered enemies who fought to disable rather than destroy, or who offered medical aid to those they had just defeated. Captain Chen had requested a meeting aboard the Divine Supremacy, and Kethvar had agreed, partly out of curiosity and partly because he needed time to think. The human captain arrived with a small escort and a datapad filled with information. "Admiral," Sarah said as they met in his conference room, "I wanted to discuss what happened during our engagement." Kethvar gestured to a chair. "Please explain to me how your primitive weapons penetrated our shields." Sarah smiled and activated her datapad. The holographic display showed detailed technical specifications of Zephyrian ships. "Your shields are actually quite impressive. The harmonic frequency design is brilliant for defending against energy weapons." "Then how did you defeat them?" "Simple," Sarah said. "We didn't use energy weapons. We used kinetic rounds, basically chunks of metal fired at very high speed. Your shields weren't designed to stop physical projectiles." Kethvar stared at the data. "You analyzed our defenses and found a weakness in a matter of hours?" 23 hours, actually," Sarah corrected. "We're pretty good at figuring out how things work." "But why are you telling me this?" Kethvar asked. "You are revealing your tactics to your enemy." Sarah looked genuinely puzzled. "Why wouldn't I? If you understand how we beat you, you can improve your defenses. That will make our next fight more interesting." The Admiral felt like his understanding of warfare was being turned upside down. "You want us to improve our defenses? So we can fight you better?" "Of course," Sarah said enthusiastically. "What's the point of fighting someone if they can't give you a good challenge?" Kethvar activated his own holographic display, showing the tactical analysis of the engagement. "Captain Chen, your fleet disabled 3 of our ships without destroying them. You specifically targeted non-critical systems. Why?" "Because destroying ships is wasteful," Sarah explained. "Those are good vessels with experienced crews. We just needed to stop them from fighting, not kill everyone aboard." "And then you rescued our crews." "Well, yes. They were in danger and we were the closest ships. It's basic humanitarian protocol." Kethvar was silent for a long moment. "Captain, in 10,000 years of galactic conquest, no species has ever behaved as you do. Most fight desperately until they are destroyed, or surrender immediately when they see our power." "That does sound boring," Sarah admitted. "Boring? Well, where's the challenge in that? Either they give up without a fight, or they fight the same way everyone else does. We were hoping for something more creative." At that moment, Subcommander Velkris entered the conference room looking agitated. "Admiral, we have a situation. Fleet Admiral Zoranth is en route with reinforcements. Kethvar's 4 eyes widened. Fleet Admiral Zorinth, how many ships? 200 vessels, sir, the largest battle group in the Empire. Sarah looked interested. 200 ships, that sounds exciting. Kethvar turned to her in disbelief. Captain, do you understand what this means? Fleet Admiral Zorinth commands the most powerful military force in the galaxy. He has never lost a battle. Really? Sarah's eyes lit up. We've never fought a fleet that large before. This should be educational. Educational? Kethvar was beginning to think humans might actually be insane. Captain, 200 ships will destroy your fleet in minutes. Maybe, Sarah agreed. But we'll learn a lot about large-scale fleet tactics in the process. She stood up and activated her communication device. All human ships, this is Captain Chen. We have incoming reinforcements. 200 Zephyrian vessels commanded by their best admiral. Protocol 7 is now upgraded to Protocol 8. Kethvar heard cheering through the communication channel. The human crews were actually celebrating the news of overwhelming enemy reinforcements. Captain, Kethvar said weakly. What is Protocol 8? Sarah grinned. Full-scale fleet engagement with advanced tactical adaptation. We've been wanting to test some of our newer theories. Over the next few hours, Sarah transmitted detailed information to the approaching Zephyrian fleet. She provided navigation updates, warned them about local space hazards, and even suggested a better location for the battle, an area with fewer civilian shipping lanes. When Fleet Admiral Zorinth's massive formation arrived, they found the human fleet waiting calmly in open space. The 12 human ships looked like toys compared to the enormous Zephyrian battle group. Admiral Zorinth, a veteran commander with centuries of experience, opened communications with the human flagship. I am Fleet Admiral Zorinth of the Zephyrian Empire, his deep voice announced. I have come to end this foolish resistance. Fleet Admiral, Sarah replied cheerfully. What an honor. We've heard great things about your tactical abilities. We're really looking forward to this engagement. Zorinth paused, studying the small human on his screen. You face the largest fleet in galactic history and you look forward to it? Oh yes, Sarah said. We've never had the chance to fight against such an experienced commander. This is going to teach us so much about advanced fleet tactics. Teach you? Zorinth was confused. You expect to learn from your defeat? We always learn from our battles, Sarah explained. Win or lose, every fight makes us better. Admiral Kethvar, who was monitoring the communication, sent a private message to Zorinth. Admiral, I recommend extreme caution. These humans are unlike any species we have encountered. But Zorinth was confident in his overwhelming superiority. 200 ships against 12 was not a battle. It was an execution. Very well, Zorinth announced. Since you are so eager for education, I will provide it. Prepare to learn why the Zephyrian Empire has never been defeated. Sarah's smile grew wider. Thank you, Admiral. We appreciate the opportunity. As the massive alien fleet moved into battle formation, Sarah turned to her crew. All right, everyone. Time to show the galaxy what humans can do when the odds are impossible. Around the bridge, her officers grinned with anticipation. They had studied Zephyrian tactics, analyzed their weaknesses, and prepared countermeasures for situations exactly like this. But more importantly, they were about to face the greatest military challenge in human history. And humans loved a good challenge. The Battle of Kepler 442 began at dawn, ship time. Fleet Admiral Zorinth arranged his 200 vessels in the traditional Zephyrian formation, a massive wall of firepower designed to overwhelm any enemy through sheer force. It was a formation that had conquered dozens of species and never failed. Captain Sarah Chen watched the alien deployment from her command chair and smiled. Look at that formation, Rodriguez. It's beautiful. Commander Rodriguez studied the tactical display. Beautiful. Captain? Absolutely. Perfect textbook deployment. Maximum firepower concentration. Overlapping fields of fire. It's exactly what we expected. And exactly what we planned for, Rodriguez added with a grin. The human fleet had spent the last several hours preparing for this moment. While the Zephyrians had been forming their battle line, human ships had been busy deploying what appeared to be routine maintenance equipment throughout the asteroid field that dominated the local area. Admiral Zorinth, Sarah broadcast to the alien fleet. Impressive formation. We're honored to face such a professional military force. Your honor is irrelevant, Zorinth replied coldly. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. That's very kind of you, Sarah said, but we're going to have to decline. We've been looking forward to this fight for too long to give up now. Zorinth gave the order to attack. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with enough energy to destroy a small moon. Beams of plasma and particle weapons lit up space like a deadly light show. Any normal fleet would have been vaporized instantly, but the human ships weren't where the targeting computers expected them to be. In the seconds before the attack, the human fleet had scattered into the asteroid field, using the massive rocks as cover. The Zephyrian weapons struck empty space and asteroid surfaces, creating spectacular explosions but hitting nothing important. Impossible, Zorinth muttered. No ships can maneuver that quickly. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the human vessels are using some kind of enhanced propulsion system. They're moving at speeds that should tear their ships apart. What the Zephyrians didn't know was that human ships had been designed for exactly this kind of combat. Every vessel in the fleet was built to withstand extreme acceleration and rapid course changes. Human crews trained constantly in high-gravity environments, preparing for the brutal physical demands of advanced space combat. The first phase of the battle was a deadly game of hide-and-seek. Human ships darted between asteroids, appearing just long enough to fire precisely targeted shots before disappearing again. Their weapons were simple kinetic rounds, but they struck with devastating accuracy. How are they targeting us so precisely? Zorinth demanded, as another of his ships was disabled. The answer came from an unexpected source. As the battle raged, civilian ships began arriving from human colonies. But these weren't refugees fleeing the fight. They were reinforcements. Admiral, the tactical officer said in shock, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the approaching civilian vessels. They're not civilians at all. Sarah smiled as she watched the new arrivals on her screen. Admiral Zorinth, I'd like you to meet the rest of our fleet. The civilian ships began transforming before the aliens' eyes. Cargo pods opened to reveal weapon systems. Mining equipment converted into military hardware. Construction vessels deployed advanced shields and armor. Every human colony ship is also a warship, Sarah explained as the newcomers joined the battle. Every mining vessel can become a destroyer. Every transport can fight like a cruiser. We learned long ago that in a dangerous universe, everything must serve multiple purposes. The Zephyrian advantage in numbers was rapidly disappearing. What had started as 200 ships against 12 was now becoming a more even fight as dozens of human vessels revealed their true nature. But the real shock came when the humans revealed their greatest advantage. They had been preparing for this exact scenario for generations. Admiral, Sarah broadcast to Zorinth, we've been studying galactic warfare for 50 years. Every battle you've ever fought, every tactic you've ever used, every weakness you've ever exploited, we know about all of it. On human worlds throughout the solar system, military academies had spent decades analyzing theoretical alien combat doctrines. Human engineers had developed countermeasures for weapons that didn't exist yet. Human tacticians had planned responses to every possible form of space combat. The Zephyrian Empire was facing an enemy that had been expecting them for half a century. Impossible, Zorinth said, as his carefully planned battle formation was torn apart by human tactics he had never seen before. How could a primitive species develop such advanced strategies? Simple, Sarah replied as her ships continued their deadly dance through the asteroid field. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know every trick there is. The battle became a masterclass in adaptive warfare. Where Zephyrians relied on overwhelming firepower and rigid formations, humans used flexibility and innovation. They turned asteroids into weapons, used mining charges as improvised missiles, and coordinated attacks with a speed that alien command structures couldn't match. More importantly, the humans were learning during the fight. Every alien tactic was analyzed and countered within minutes. Every new weapon system was studied and defeated. The longer the battle lasted, the more effective the human response became. Admiral, Zoranth's tactical officer reported, "Our casualty rate is increasing. The humans are adapting to our tactics faster than we can change them." Zoranth watched in growing disbelief as his superior technology was systematically countered by human ingenuity. Ships that should have been invincible were being disabled by weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate their defenses. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we're receiving tactical data from the human fleet." "What kind of data?" "They're transmitting detailed analysis of our weaknesses and suggestions for improvements to our defensive systems." Zoranth stared at the incoming data streams. In the middle of a fierce battle, the humans were teaching their enemies how to fight better. "Are they insane?" he asked. Admiral Kethvar, whose ship was supporting the battle group, answered the question. "No, Admiral, they're human. They treat warfare as a learning experience, not a zero-sum game." As the battle continued, something unprecedented happened in galactic history. Other alien species monitoring the engagement from across the galaxy began to take notice. The Zephyrian Empire, the most powerful military force in known space, was not just being challenged. It was being pushed to its limits by a species that had barely achieved interstellar flight. The humans had revealed something that shook the foundations of galactic politics. Superior technology meant nothing against superior adaptation. "Admiral Zoranth," Sarah broadcast as the battle reached its climax, "this has been an excellent engagement. Your tactical innovations are really impressive. We've learned so much from fighting you." Zoranth realized with growing horror that the humans were treating the largest fleet battle in galactic history as a training exercise, and they were winning. The Battle of Kepler 442 ended not with the destruction of the human fleet, but with something that had never happened in Zephyrian history. Fleet Admiral Zoranth ordered a strategic withdrawal. His mighty battle group, reduced from 200 ships to fewer than 100 functional vessels, pulled back from the asteroid field where the humans waited calmly among the debris of the engagement. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "the humans are not pursuing us." Zoranth looked at his tactical display, expecting to see human ships pressing their advantage. Instead, the enemy fleet had formed a defensive perimeter and was broadcasting on all frequencies. "Fleet Admiral Zoranth," Captain Chen's voice came through clearly. "Thank you for an excellent battle. Your tactical innovations were outstanding, and we learned a great deal from your formations and strategies." "Learned?" Zoranth said weakly. "Oh yes. Your adaptive response to our asteroid tactics was particularly clever. We'll definitely incorporate those ideas into our own training programs." Zoranth stared at the communication screen. "Captain Chen, do you realize what has just happened? You have defeated the most powerful fleet in galactic history." "Have we?" Sarah sounded genuinely curious. "We weren't trying to defeat you, Admiral. We were trying to learn from you." "Learn from us?" "Absolutely. Fighting against experienced opponents is the best way to improve our own capabilities. Your fleet provided an excellent test of our tactical theories." Admiral Kethvar, monitoring the conversation from his damaged flagship, felt a chill run through his body. The humans hadn't been trying to win. They had been experimenting. "Captain," Zoranth said slowly, "what do you want from us?" Sarah paused, as if the question had never occurred to her. "Want from you? Nothing, really. We were just exploring this region when you showed up. We're grateful for the opportunity to test our fleet capabilities against such a professional military force." "You don't want territory? Resources? Conquest?" "Why would we want that?" Sarah asked. "We have plenty of space to explore and resources to develop. What we really want is to meet new species and learn new things." Zoranth felt his understanding of galactic politics collapsing. "Then why did you fight us?" "Because you challenged us," Sarah replied cheerfully. "When someone shows up with a big fleet and demands that we surrender, we take that as an invitation to see how good they really are." "An invitation? Sure. It's like saying, 'I think I'm tougher than you are.' Humans can't resist that kind of challenge. In the silence that followed, Zorinth began to understand the magnitude of his mistake. The Zephyrian Empire had not encountered another military power. They had stumbled across a species that treated warfare as a sport. "Fleet Admiral," Sarah continued, "we'd like to make a proposal." "What kind of proposal?" "Well, we've really enjoyed fighting against your forces. You have excellent tactical discipline and impressive technology. We'd like to do this again sometime." Zorinth was speechless. "We're thinking maybe we could set up regular training exercises," Sarah explained. "Your fleets could practice against our adaptive tactics, and we could learn from your advanced strategies. It would be beneficial for both sides." Admiral Kethvar interrupted the conversation. "Captain Chen, may I ask you a question?" "Of course, Admiral." "During this entire engagement, how many of our crew members have died?" Sarah consulted her datapad. "According to our records, 0 deaths on either side. We've been very careful to target only critical systems, and life support has been maintained on all disabled vessels." 0 deaths? Zorinth repeated. "In the largest fleet battle in galactic history?" "We told you, we're not trying to kill anyone. We just wanted to see how well our ships performed against advanced opponents." The two Zephyrian admirals exchanged glances. In 10,000 years of galactic conquest, they had never encountered anything like this. "Captain," Zorinth said carefully, "what happens now?" "Now?" Sarah sounded thoughtful. "Well, we'll continue our exploration mission. We've got several other star systems to visit. Oh, and we'll send our after-action reports to Earth Command. They'll be very interested in what we've learned about advanced fleet tactics. And us? You're welcome to continue whatever you were doing before we met. Though, if you're ever in the area again and want another training exercise, just let us know." Zorinth made a decision that would change galactic history. "Captain Chen, I would like to speak with Earth Command." "Really, that's great. They'll be excited to hear from you." 6 hours later, Fleet Admiral Zorinth found himself in an unprecedented situation, participating in a diplomatic conference with Earth's military leadership. The conversation was unlike any negotiation in Zephyrian history. "Fleet Admiral," said General Patricia Martinez, Earth's Chief of Space Operations, "Captain Chen tells us you're interested in establishing formal relations." "General," Zorinth replied, "I have a recommendation for the Galactic Council that will shock the Empire." "What kind of recommendation?" "That humanity be designated as an adaptive combat partner rather than a conquest target." General Martinez looked interested. "What does that mean?" "It means," Zorinth explained, "that instead of trying to conquer you, we want to hire you." The concept was revolutionary. For the first time in galactic history, the Zephyrian Empire was proposing an alliance based on mutual benefit rather than domination. "You see," Zorinth continued, "our empire has grown too comfortable with our military superiority. We've forgotten how to innovate, how to adapt, how to improve. Fighting against your forces has reminded us of what we've lost." "So you want us to help you train?" General Martinez asked. "More than that. We want humanity to become our strategic partners. When we encounter new threats, and there are always new threats in this galaxy, we want you to help us develop countermeasures." Admiral Kethvar, participating in the conference, added his support. "General, your species has demonstrated capabilities that we didn't know were possible. You turn every disadvantage into an opportunity, every defeat into a learning experience. And," Zorinth said with something approaching admiration, "you enjoy fighting impossible odds. That makes you invaluable allies for an empire that faces the unknown dangers of galactic space." 3 months later, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Kepler station, watching human and Zephyrian ships conducting joint training exercises. The sight would have been impossible to imagine when she first encountered Admiral Kethvar's ultimatum. "Captain," Commander Rodriguez said, joining her at the viewing port, "we just received new orders from Earth Command." "What's the assignment?" "Exploration and first contact with the Andromedan species in the Outer Rim. Intelligence suggests they're highly aggressive and technologically advanced." Sarah's eyes lit up with familiar excitement. "How aggressive?" They've reportedly destroyed 3 different civilizations and show no interest in diplomacy. And how advanced? Energy weapons beyond anything we've seen, ships that can phase through solid matter, and tactical capabilities that have puzzled every military analyst in the galaxy. Sarah grinned. Rodriguez, that sounds like exactly the kind of challenge we've been looking for. The Galactic Council is sending us as their advanced diplomatic team, Rodriguez continued. If anyone can make peaceful contact with the Andromedans, they think it's us. Sarah watched a Zephyrian destroyer and a human cruiser working together to solve a tactical problem that had stumped military theorists for decades. 6 months ago, those same ships had been shooting at each other. You know what, Rodriguez, she said. I think they might be right. The human fleet departed Kepler Station the next morning, heading for the outer rim and whatever new challenges awaited them among the stars. Behind them, human and Zephyrian engineers continued their work, developing new technologies and strategies for threats they had never imagined. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When facing the unknown, the best allies were not those with superior weapons or advanced technology. The best allies were those who smiled when faced with impossible odds and treated every new challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger. The best allies were human,